Hello, brave listener. Welcome to Spooky Podcast. Thanks for tuning in for part 3. But before going ahead, let's recall about part 2. The lights flickered back on, but nothing was the same. The oppressive air felt alive. A haunting voice whispered the name, Lily, and the group realized they weren't alone. Objects moved on their own. Shadows grew claws, and the crib revealed a pale, lifeless hand. They glimpsed a twisted smile on Lily's face before the walls began to bleed, and her laughter filled every corner. Desperate for escape, their screams were met only with silence. The Marshall house had awakened, its grip on them tightening. And then it was time for part 3. The cellar's icy grip loosened just enough to let the group escape, stumbling back up the narrow staircase, hearts pounding. Yet as they emerged into the darkened house, a new, unnerving sensation overtook them. They were no longer alone, and the walls around them seemed to be breathing. Jess brushed a layer of dust from her clothes, still shaken, and muttered, "We need to get out of here now." But Sam was transfixed by something down the hallway. The flickering light from his flashlight danced across a door they hadn't noticed before, almost hidden by the peeling wallpaper and darkened wood. Strange symbols were etched around the frame, crude carvings that looked like claw marks gouged deep into the wood. "That wasn't there before, right?" Sam asked, his voice barely a whisper. Jess shook her head, but her curiosity was piqued. Against their better judgment, the group found themselves drawn toward the mysterious door. Sam reached out, hesitating before his hand made contact. Just as his fingers brushed the handle, a piercing childlike giggle echoed down the hallway, freezing them in their tracks. "Lily." The voice seemed to breathe from all directions. "Come, play." The door creaked open on its own, revealing a room they could barely make out in the dim, unreliable light. The flashlight beams trembled over dusty shelves filled with forgotten items, eyeless dolls, tarnished picture frames, ancient newspapers with brittle, yellowed edges. And in the center of the room stood a cracked mirror, its reflective surface marred by dark, sticky streaks that could only be one thing: blood. As Jess and Emily peered into the mirror, their reflections shifted, their eyes hollow and lifeless, skin pale and waxy. But worse than their own distorted reflections was a shadowed figure behind them, a small girl with long hair, her face hidden. "Did you see that?" Emily whispered, stepping back. But it wasn't just the mirror. Around them, more shadows seemed to bleed into the room. They moved with a slow, crawling persistence, twisting and stretching, reaching out toward them like clawed hands. The temperature plummeted, and the once faint whisper of Lily grew louder, echoing from every shadow in the room. Mark shone his flashlight on the nearest shelf, where a faded photograph caught his eye. It was a picture of a young girl, eyes wide with terror, clutching a doll identical to the one lying at his feet. "Oh God," Mark murmured, recognizing the dress, the face. It was Lily. But then, as if responding to his realization, the objects in the room began to move. The dolls' heads turned slowly, eyeless faces locked on them. The floor creaked with the sound of footsteps, light but deliberate, as if something small and fragile were crossing the room toward them. A cold wind rushed past, and suddenly the mirror's surface cracked, each fracture spreading like veins. And then, from the center of the mirror, Lily's face emerged, only it was twisted, eyes black in pits, her mouth split open in a smile that stretched too far, showing teeth that were sharp, animalistic. The lights flickered, and for a moment, Lily's voice filled the room, now laced with anger. "You came to play with me. Now you'll never leave." The floor began to tremble, the walls seeming to close in, pulsating with each flicker of the light. A dark, suffocating fog spilled from the corners of the room, enveloping them, obscuring their vision. They heard a soft scraping sound, like nails scratching against wood, coming from behind them. Spinning around, they saw nothing except for the mirror, which now reflected them trapped, surrounded by walls that stretched out endlessly, a maze of shadows with no escape. Panicked, Jess grabbed the door handle, desperately trying to open it, but it wouldn't budge. They were locked in, held hostage by a vengeful spirit that had lured them into its lair. Lily's giggling grew louder, coming from the shadows, from the mirror, from the very walls around them. The room became a chorus of overlapping whispers, each one calling for them, taunting, mocking. Forever, forever. Sam's flashlight flickered and died, plunging them into pitch darkness. And in that absolute blackness, they felt it, Lily's cold hand gripping each of their arms, her icy breath against their skin as she whispered, "You wanted to find me. Now you're mine." The room trembles, the shadows recede, and silence blankets the air. The group stands in eerie stillness, their faces pale and breath shallow. The mirror, now void of its haunting shadow, reflects only their exhausted forms. But they know this is far from over. Suddenly, the sound of faint whispers creeps back, growing louder with every second. The lights flicker once more, and an ominous presence seems to loom over them. A message appears on the mirror, written in blood, "You're not done yet." What will happen next? Will they escape, or will the maze of shadows claim them forever? Let us know your theories in the comments. Like this video and subscribe for the chilling finale in part 4, where all secrets will be revealed. Till that, be safe from the ghost who is waiting to haunt us.